radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? Fade to Black. Oh, man, we've got a great week lined up. Today's Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Busy week this week. Last night's show with Kimberly Meredith was absolutely amazing. Great show. And tonight, Brandon Alvis joins us. And I've known Brandon for a while, but I can't believe this is the first time he's been on the show. But he's with us tonight. We're going to talk about his new show now in it. Okay, I'll just get this straight. Third season is getting ready to premiere, and I just found out the fourth season is in the can of Haunted Discoveries. We're going to be talking about all of that, the paranormal, the supernatural, and all kinds of other fun stuff tonight with Brandon. Tomorrow night, we are off air. I am out on location shooting something that Brandon knows nothing about. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And what I'm doing and when it's going to air and all that stuff, I'll let you guys know. And Thursday night, Daryl Sims is with us, the Alien Hunter. And just to make sure that we still do 4 live shows this week, because tomorrow we're off air, Friday night, a very special F2B broadcast. We are going to do an AMA, AJA. You can ask me anything and just come and spend your Friday night with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So there you go. I've got 4 events coming up in the second half of 2024 in less than 2 weeks. The 2024 Conscious Awards in Miami, Florida, and hosted by Giorgio Tsoukalos. That is August 3rd and 4th. Links for that are below in Miami. Then there is the Contact at Sea Cruise to Alaska. I'm hosting that as well. And that is September 6th through the 13th. Tickets, availability, the schedule, and everything else are in the links below for that. The Egypt tour is coming up in October with Billy and Elizabeth and myself. That is sold out. You can now sign up for 2025. And that is out there now. And you can get on the waiting list for 2024 if somebody cancels. And then there's Peru and Bolivia with Brian Forrester. I'm out of breath with Brian Forrester. And that is November 15th through the 27th. Again, it is also sold out, but you can get on the waiting list. Okay, we've had some tickets open up. Same thing on the Egypt tour, too, as well. We've had a few cancellations. So stay on top of it. Come and see the world with me. It's going to be great. But because everything is sold out, you've got to get on the waiting list. And that's the only way to get it done. All right. What was I going to say? I had something to say, and now it just got away from me. I had a whole thing I was going to get into. Well, so let's just do it. Let's start the show. It's what happens when you get old. You forget stuff. Today I have a friend of mine's birthday that is coming up, and I know him and his 2 brothers really well. Known them for 40 years, and like close. And I forgot one of the brothers' names. And, we're emailing back and forth, and I had to jump on the internet and go back and search. And I went, I've got to stop doing this. I've got to stop doing this. How can that happen? It's very strange. Anyway, so with that, tonight, Brandon Alvis is with us. And we're going to talk about the latest developments out there in the world of the paranormal and the supernatural. Of course, his hit series, Haunted Discoveries, and it is getting ready to premiere its third season. We'll talk about all of that and the dates. Season 4 is in the can. But this is what is cool about Brandon. He's an investigator. He's a researcher of the paranormal and the supernatural, but he's also a filmmaker. He's also an author. He's a television showrunner, which is probably, I would say this. You have producers, you have directors, and he's done that. And investigation, show running, and the showrunner is probably the most important job in any TV series in television. You've probably never even heard the term. Showrunners, if you're the showrunner for a TV series, especially a hit TV series, you hold all the power. You hold all the juice cards. All the decisions rest on you. And what is a showrunner? We're going to be talking about that because he's also the showrunner and the director and the producer and the lead investigator for Haunted Discoveries. And we will be talking about all of that and more. His links are below. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Brandon Alvis. He's right there. Brandon, my man.
Jimmy, thanks for having me on, man. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too as well. And now here's the deal. You get the first time guest disclaimer. For me to even say that to you, I'm a little embarrassed, but it's you get the first time. The next time you're on the show, Brandon, you don't get it, but you've got to get the first time guest disclaimer tonight, which is this. Brandon is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. Now you have to accept so we can go.
Absolutely. I'm all in.
Okay, man. Like I said, I'm a little embarrassed. It's it's a little strange to say that to you. I'm actually going to start in a weird spot before we get to the normal questions about the paranormal and supernatural and your crazy family and your crazy uncle and all that stuff. We'll get to that. But here's a question you've probably never been asked. How many EVPs have you recorded?
Oh, man. I would say legitimate EVPs that cannot be explained by a third party. I would say a handful. There's a lot of things over the years. I've been doing this almost 20 years now, Jimmy, and I've encountered some crazy things, but there's only a handful I can say I have taken to an audio engineer and have had analyzed through spectrum analysis that can really say, this sounds like human speech. It seems intelligent, but it's not shown up in a frequency range that would dictate that it is a person, right?
Okay.
So it's interesting. I would say a handful for sure.
A handful is more than one, and that's right. That's
yeah.
My first EVP was with you.
That's
Do
right.
you remember it? Do you remember it?
I do.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell you right now, and for the audience, they've heard me talk about this before. This thing that happened with us, but you're on the show now to back up my bullshit. Okay, I don't cuss on the show, but right now that was appropriately used. That was the craziest thing that I've ever, and I've seen and done some crazy stuff. But when you have it happen to yourself, where you're a witness, right? You're a participant. You are there. I was beyond, and so everybody, it's myself. It was just the three of us. Well, we had camera people there too as well and stuff, but it was you, Susan, and I, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was it, right? It was just the three of us. And we're in this tunnel underneath LAPD police precinct, which they call the evidence tunnel or something. It's underground. And when you're down there, it's quiet. Like you could hear your pulse, right? It's really, really quiet. There's nothing going on. And Brandon goes, "Hey," let's do some EVPs. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. And so we're doing our thing, and we're going to the complete silence as we're asking questions. One of us asked a question. I don't remember who did it, but and then you played it back, and dude, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God. And I was so at that moment, and I remember us going back and watching the video, right? You could hear us and ask and the silence that was there after that. There's nothing going on. And when you played it back, you heard the question get asked, and then this answer came up. It's clear, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
you know what was interesting about that area too? I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, it was just a brick hall corridor that they used, I think, as a shooting range at one time, and then now it's full of all
probably that makes sense.
Right. And so, I mean, it was like isolated when it came to sound, and it wasn't an echo chamber or anything like that. It was a very contained area, which made that recording that much more interesting to me.
Yeah, and so do you ever get tired of that? I went outside. I remember we wrapped that scene. We did this for TV, everybody. But anyway, we wrapped that scene, and I went outside and I lit a cigarette, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, what? Does that ever get old? I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
It doesn't get old. It's not. It doesn't happen often. That's what makes it so exciting, is when you have those moments like that, especially where that's what keeps me going in all this. I'm always skeptical in a lot of ways. I always like kind of straddle the fence. There's times I really believe, and there's times I don't believe at all. But that was an instance that is one of those times that keeps you going. It makes you going, okay, I know it wasn't the cameraman, it wasn't Jay, it wasn't one of us talking. We know without a shadow of a doubt that didn't happen, and multiple devices, correlated that. So it's things like that that keep my pursuit going.
Man, that was a glorious. I've had a few standalone moments in my life that they all involve Susan Slaughter too. And she's a magnet for that stuff. That's another discussion for another time. But I've had a few moments where I went, "Wow, okay." Now, but it doesn't. This is the crazy part. You don't get answers. Right? It's not, you're still okay. You don't know what it is. Right?
Yeah,
but does it answer? Do you walk away from it going, okay, now I know what's going on? No, you don't, do you?
No, you don't. A lot of times, you're left with more questions than answers, right? It seems like, and there's been, like I said, the handful of times I've had EVP that has, in my opinion, been verifiable as something that's unexplainable and something that we can't explain in the organization, or we could, we could say, hey, look, this has been analyzed by a third party. We don't have an explanation for it. Therefore, it's paranormal, above normal. But, one of those recordings I've had was at the Villisca axe murder house in Villisca, Iowa. I don't know if you're familiar with that case or not, but it's one of America's most famous cold cases, unsolved murders. And I was lucky to be there in 2009, and I had a bunch of control recording equipment in the house. I was a sound engineer for a few years and recorded bands. I worked at the Buck Owens Crystal Palace, so I had all of this really high-end audio gear, condenser microphones, 2 preamps, and all this stuff. And I was using that to try and record EVP in these famously haunted locations. And one night I was there in 2009, and I recorded the sound of what unfortunately sounded like young girls screaming, which verifies some of the historical accuracy of what happened there that night. So just like at the LA Police Museum in that crazy evidence locker hallway in the Villisca axe murder house, another instance where I captured something where it makes you really evaluate and think about, what are we really doing? What is this all about?
The chase is fun. Is the journey more fun? Because they're two different things. One, you're going after and you're investigating, but then it's the journey, getting to that point. What drives you?
For me, my whole interest in the paranormal began at a young age. 1995, I lost my oldest brother to cancer, and in 2004, I lost another brother to suicide. So it wasn't really about having a paranormal experience per se, but it was more about having to learn about death at a young age and really think about the possibility of life after death, and does consciousness survive outside of the human body. And that's something that launched me into what I'm doing. And 20 years now almost, I've been looking for possible evidence and proof of consciousness surviving death. And I've been lucky enough to investigate in 49 states in this country. I've been to some of the most praised haunted locations, and I've had some encounters I can't explain. But still to this day, I would like to call myself a natural skeptic, really, where there's times I really believe, there's times I don't believe, but I'm always looking to try and find opinions of third parties and reaching out to various professionals from technical industries that can help me try and find those answers.
So I know where I like that answer. I like that answer for a lot of different reasons. But I'll say this. I know the most haunted house in America. You've never been there. You want to know?
Absolutely. I'd love to know.
My house.
Really?
Yeah. And so, and even as crazy, the stuff that has gone on here and continues to go on here, I'm still skeptical. That right? I think that's the right answer. You don't know. I don't know. I see what's going on. I hear what's going on. I get it, but you've got to remain skeptical because it's not the proof of anything. All it does is force you to go, okay, I got to figure this out.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's the journey. And I'm okay with it. I'm not, it's too easy to freak yourself out.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Have you ever been times. Tell me, just you and I right now. Tell me the time when you were the most scared. What happened?
I would have to say it was when I was filming Ghost Hunters for A&E, which is funny because we're out there in some of these places. We talked about earlier New Mexico, right? What a strange place New Mexico is, and how much secrecy and mystery there is out there in that state. And we were at a place called Fort Stanton in New Mexico, not far from Area 51, not far from the Roswell site. And this place served as everything you can imagine. It was a prisoner of war camp for World War II, Germans in World War II. It was the first federal tuberculosis hospital. It was part of the Apache Wars. Billy the Kid was locked up there. It's not far from Lincoln, New Mexico. And we were in this federal tuberculosis hospital, and I was setting up a camera to shoot down this hallway. And I was the only one in there. None of the production crew, no other investigators. And I just had this sense of someone being in that hospital with me, someone in that hallway. And I'll never forget having that sensation, just knowing someone was there and looking at the monitor of this EMCCD camera, this very sensitive scientific piece of equipment, and seeing a woman just right there in that doorway.
What? Okay, continue.
What's crazy about it too is upon analyzing that footage, one of our production crew sent it to his wife, and she looked at it frame by frame and ended up taking a still shot from it and finding a historic photograph of a nurse during the height of the tuberculosis epidemic. And it was almost identical. The garb, the hat she was wearing, just everything she was wearing matched this image so perfectly. So that to me was a scary moment because of just that kind of fight or flight sensation, right? Just your natural instincts kicking in, knowing something's here. I'm not alone. I don't know if I should be prepared to fight something or be prepared just to run, and just my natural instincts kicking in, and then capturing this image on a piece of technology like that was a mind-blowing experience, but also a pretty terrifying one.
What's your theory behind the technology being able to capture the phenomenon today? It seems that before we get it all sciency and electromagnetic, this or whatever the phenomenon may be, but it has to be, I would think, I said has to be, it doesn't have to, but electronic in nature, right? Because it creeps into EVPs happen because of the electronics that are involved. You don't necessarily hear it with the ear. Some you do, right? Some you do.
Right.
And I've heard that too, again, with Susan friggin' Slaughter, you know. But what's your theory behind that? Why is technology so sensitive to the phenomena?
Well, you know, it's specifically with ghosts and hauntings, you know, in the research that we conduct with APRA, the American Paranormal Research Association, we're always looking to try and use technology that's adapted from other industries. You know, you see a lot with the, you know, the ghost and haunting space and the TV shows or the research. You see a lot of gadgets specifically made to find ghosts, right? You know, with our research, we try and stay away from that because we want to find quantifiable data that can be looked at by scientists, engineers, medical doctors, people that have a higher understanding of the way these things may operate. So, but the technology is such a huge part of it because if we're not documenting that in these instances, it's just a story, which a story is great. A personal experience is fantastic, but utilizing technology and specifically technology from other industries has to be a part of the protocol in order to really try and push the field forward first and foremost, but to try and find out, is what we think happening truly a phenomenon we can't understand? So, you know, for instance, the EMCCD camera, like I talked about earlier about that instance in Fort Stanton, New Mexico, that's a camera typically used by scientists to record single photon events.
Yep.
And they're using that in research with NASA, and they use it in medical labs as well. And the reason we started to use that and adapt that to ghost research is because when I reached out to one of my consultants, he mentioned that photon events may be an explanation to luminous phenomena or apparition sightings. And that also not only plays into the fact that there's a science element to it, but it also plays into the fact that if this phenomena truly is taking place, we should be able to document it with a scientific piece of instrumentation.
And that camera, I remember you and I discussing that camera at length. And I still am so interested in it. But explain to everybody why it's so special, because it shoots. Well, I'll let you explain it, but it shoots very, very fast, very, very small things and stuff that you don't necessarily ever see with the human eye, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's a electron multiplying camera, and this camera is shooting not only in every visual spectrum you can imagine, but it's recording at it's a very high rate. So photon events are not seen by the human eye typically. Apparently, there's been studies where people with an extra protein in their eye can see photonic events, single photonic events like that. But this camera is able to document those, I mean, with clarity and with such high resonance and with so much data that you can really see these things taking place in a space. So the EMCCD camera is the type of technology that helps further some of the theories that we have when it comes to ghosts and hauntings. Especially, you hear about orb phenomena, right? You hear about people seeing balls of light. You hear about people seeing glowing apparitions in these locations. This camera, which is suited to scientific research, is a perfect example of the type of technology we need to use. And being able to record these single photon events and in these places that are said to be haunted is the perfect thing to try and present to the scientific community, to say, hey, look, some of these stories are not just stories, and these eyewitnesses aren't just, trying to find fame or trying to get something out of it. They're actually experiencing these things.
What I find interesting with that, Brandon, is if you want a really classic example of what you're referring to, and one that I think that we talk about more and more, is that the human eye sees what it sees through evolution. That's it. We see, that's our reality. And when you look at the photography of deep space and being able to look into a telescope, going back to Galileo, right? You were used to seeing black with stars, right? That's it. That's it. That's it. Okay. We're used to that. That's what we can see. Throw in the James Webb Space Telescope using all of these different sensors, these different types of cameras, and looking into different spectrums. We see the space in a completely different, connected way than we never had before. And to the untrained eye, or just looking through a telescope, this is not there. And that occurs in the world around us too. It isn't any different, is it?
No, not at all. And that's why, looking into that type of phenomena from a scientific perspective and using technology that's used by NASA, right, to try and find these single photon events, and then the digital imaging scientific community, is the way our human eye perceives something doesn't necessarily tell us the entire story, right? And now using that and documenting that and verifying that is just taking it a step further. It's been phenomenal. And we've actually had instances where we've tried to correlate these single photon events with the EMCCD with changes in the environment as well. And we were very lucky to be supplied equipment from the National Weather Service in trying to document the environment, in these haunted locations. And they've given us some amazing data loggers and sensors that they use out in the field with the National Weather Service, Kestrel instruments, where we're setting these up, shooting the EMCCD in these areas, and we're seeing these single photon events just come out of nowhere. And not only changing the barometric pressure, it's changing the magnetic nature of the space as well, where we'll have a magnetic compass running, shooting true north, and all of a sudden this single photon event will show up right around that device and throw the compass off 9 degrees, and also show us sharp increases and sometimes decreases in barometric pressure. Does that mean it's a ghost? I'm not sure, but it's telling us that this light phenomena is changing the environment around it in places that are widely known to be haunted. So what does that mean? I'm not sure.
Well, how many times you walk into a room and you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, right. I just got a chill. It feels weird in here. It feels right. That's exactly what's going on. Why not apply the science to try to figure out, especially if it is connected to an apparition or spirit or presence that is in a building, or an orb that is caught, and at the same time, you feel the difference in the pressure in the room, static electricity, your arm hair stand, all these things happen, including like a disembodied voice. All of this may be connected, right?
Absolutely. I think it very well may be connected. And what's even more interesting, like you mentioned, the James Webb Telescope, right? And the different colors we're seeing now with that technology, right? You talked about how it looked like someone took a blanket before and just had pinholes and shot light through it. That's what we perceive to be space. And now you're seeing these images with all this vibrant color and all these things. And one thing we've seen with these single photon events in these places where there'll be different colors too, which is wild. It's just crazy to see in real time. You'll see like neon blues and highlighter yellows and all this crazy stuff that's happening. And we're also noticing that when these different colors are registering with the single photon events, there's a different environmental factor associated with it, which is just really wild stuff. I mean, again, what that means in the larger picture, I'm not sure, but it definitely seems like all of this is connected in some way. So it's fascinating for sure.
You mentioned 49 states. What's the most haunted state?
I'd have to say Kentucky, as crazy as
Kentucky.
that is. Yeah.
No, that's okay. There are reasons for that. What are you? A few come to mind. What are yours?
Well, you know, we started doing haunted discoveries, and the reason I'm now here currently in Louisville, Kentucky, is because there is something known as the Kentucky anomaly. And it is a NASA studied and verified anomaly that you can find documentation from NASA in the 1970s about a magnetic and gravitational anomaly that takes place here in Kentucky and actually bleeds into Tennessee as well. That all kinds of high strangeness is centered around. And there's also the cave systems here. You have the largest cave system in the world with the Mammoth Caves, and they're all over, right? With the neighboring states as well. So you look at some of these things that have been studied by NASA, studied by geologists, studied by people that are from credible academic backgrounds. Weird things happen here. And I think it relates to not only what some would say are ghosts and hauntings, some would say is ufology, some would say is Bigfoot. All of those things that are happening in these different factions are happening here in Kentucky. And it's just a very strange place.
And it seems to have been the cause, the instigator behind NC2A basketball programs too, as well. I'm just saying,
right?
Could be a connection. Could be
Kentucky,
a connection.
The Kentucky anomalies, winning championships apparently.
Now, what? Okay, so what is it? Is it is it geology? Is it something else? The cave system is not a coincidence, as well. So,
yeah,
what do you think is causing it?
You know, we've been very lucky to bring some very brilliant people out here to go in the field with us and actually investigate these things. We've been working with closely with Dr. Harry Clore. He's the first person in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously. He got that from Purdue University, in physics and chemistry. This guy's an actual rocket scientist. The guy's been in think tanks with the Senate, and I mean, he's done everything. He was People Magazine Person of the Year. This guy's, just a living, breathing historical figure when it comes to science. And he's been out with I think about 40 cases with us now here in Kentucky.
Really, and a really nice guy too, as well. Really cool dude.
Absolutely, and also we've had a professor from Western Kentucky State University we just worked with recently, who's a geologist, and we took him into the cave system, into a place that is known to be haunted, and it's connected to this wide range of cave systems throughout Kentucky. And they would be able to speak on that a lot more than I can, but even from their point of view, something weird is happening, and it seems to be somehow connected to this strange gravitational geomagnetic anomaly and the cave system that's just potholed all throughout Kentucky. And we were in Perryville, Kentucky not too long ago, a place that we've been extensively researching, and we're talking about one of the bloodiest single-day battles of the Civil War, a place that changed the course of history. And there is a specific building that was used as a hospital after the Battle of Perryville that has a cave feet away from the exit, the back porch of this house. And this thing goes miles underground. And we went down there with this professor, this geologist. We went down there with Dr. Harry Clore, and we tried to look into how that gravitational and magnetic anomaly is affecting these places. And we had some really interesting results.
Now, what kind of instrumentation, what kind of sensors are you using to collect data?
So we're mainly using, for environmental conditions, we're using a lot of the Kestrel instruments. And again, that was recommended to us by the National Weather Service. These are devices that are used in the field to predict weather. When it comes to electromagnetic radiation, we love using tri-field meters. Again, these are devices that are adapted from other industries, right? They're not made to find ghosts or try and go into a place and detect paranormal phenomena per se, but we use a wide range of different things. And, usually it's instrumentation that has been provided to us or recommended by other industries. And again, kestrel instruments is a big one we use a lot because it has the data logging feature where you're not only getting multiple data points coming through from magnetic to barometric pressure, humidity, temperature, but it's also logging all that information, time stamping that, and graphing and charting that out for us. So we have a real understanding of what may be something that's natural that's happening in these places, and maybe something that we can document that can't be explained.
Okay. I love this. And I love the crossover. I talk about this every night on the show, Brandon. I love the woo. Okay? I love the woo. Take me to the woo, the church of woo. Let's go. But I don't jump into the deep end of the pool. So as something happens, or I witness something, or I hear about something, and I start to research that, I get pulled from one direction over into the science side. And the science is starting to support. The science today is more woo than you and I could have ever dreamed of. It's full of fully woo.
Mm-hmm.
But they're only supporting. They're coming up with some fantastic stuff today. But it's all supporting what this community has been screaming from the mountaintops about forever. And the science is now supporting the spirits and life after death and NDEs and orbs, and it's a great place to be, but science doesn't want to. They talk about the multiverse. They'll talk about entanglement. They'll talk about extra dimensions. They'll talk about parallel worlds. They'll talk about quantum effects and quantum computers and qubits, all of that stuff, but they can't believe in ghosts.
Exactly. Quantum entanglement, string theory, all these crazy,
right. Yeah.
But life after death, a little bit too far there.
Don't ask me about consciousness, but you can look at something and change its state. What? It's weird, right? It's like but science is now supporting your research.
It is. And it's always been interesting, doing this and having some of these amazing people like Dr. Harry Clore being part of this research. Is one thing I've learned, and one thing I've been taught by Dr. Clore, who's a great mentor of mine when it comes to science and business and life in general. But he talked about there's a difference between skepticism and being open-minded, right? There's a lot of people out there that call themselves skeptics that in reality are just plain non-believers, right? So they'll guise it as, skepticism, but being a skeptic is being open to looking at data and looking at information to draw a conclusion from. But there's a lot of people out there, be that in the academic community or just people that look into life after death or ufology, whatever kind of phenomena you want to talk about, that will say I'm a skeptic, but they already have a confirmed bias, right? That they just plain don't believe, and they're not going to listen to it. So that was one thing I learned from Dr. Clore, is that there are a lot more scientists and people out there that talk about string theory, quantum mechanics, all this stuff, that are more willing to look at some of the woo-woo stuff than we realize. And a lot of times
it's only you know what? I'm going to interrupt you. I'll tell you why that happens. Data. They follow the data. There's nothing you can do to change their minds. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing you can do. The data will change their minds. And that's exactly what he's talking about there. That you cannot, when you're so pragmatic, when you're so black and white, right? That physicists are wrong all the time. Mm-hmm. It's their job to be wrong. Somebody else is going to prove something else, and you have to have very thick skin to be in that world, because you may be pretty solid today, but tomorrow, somewhere on down the line, your work is going to be proven wrong. They're going to take it to another level. So they're okay to respond when they respond to data. And if the data pushes them in another direction, look, you bring up quantum entanglement and the ideas of the most science fiction, supernatural, paranormal, woo is like the double slit experiment.
Yep.
That right there. Right. And so imagine as a physicist trying to tell another physicist, well, okay, when you look at something, you change it from what?
Right.
Yeah, when you observe it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can, and that's black magic voodoo stuff. But that's the world of science. And so I think you're right. You're right. There's the data supports this, and so they're more open to it. I don't know if we're going to be discussing consciousness anytime soon with physicists, but we're getting close.
Yeah, it's. I think there's more physicists out there that would be willing to talk about it and entertain the idea, which is great, and it's been awesome. That's one thing that we've been doing with Dr. Clore over the years is, myself and Mustafa Gadalari and, Kevin Audi and all the whole team at APRO, we always talk about what we refer to as the elements of a haunting, right? All these places that we've investigated and collect data at always seem to have common trends, be that from topography to, cave systems, right? We talk about the geology of a place, or river systems, or there's all these different things we call the elements of a haunting. And one thing we've been doing, for over 15 years with data collection is taking these data points, and one day we hope to take those data points and feed that into an AI system and allow that AI system to say, hey, look, these exact conditions where you collected this EVP or you collected this strange photonic event, those conditions are happening right now in St. Louis, Missouri at the Limp Mansion. And we predict, or the system predicts, that there could be a manifestation at this moment. So that's something we've been working towards, and something that we've been really, trying to develop and trying to understand with all this data and all these different data sets and data points. What does that lead to? What does that mean? Can it predict an event? Is this exactly the elements of a haunting? Are these conditions really supporting what we believe to be supernatural phenomena?
Have you ever been touched?
I have. Yeah, I have.
Okay, what happened? And when it goes from the non-physical to the physical, that it becomes more challenging for people to accept. Number one, but number two, for the personal experience too as well. Now you have to accept another level of interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at Bethlehem Academy, actually here in Kentucky, in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and this is a huge building built in 1820. Originally a governor's home, later became a all-girls Catholic school. A lot of deaths on the property, a lot of superstition surrounding it, a lot of local legends. And I was there in a place they called the Moses Room, this beautiful area where they used to hold services back when it was a school. And they have this really crazy biblical painting of Moses standing there, and it almost looks like a Charlton Heston version of Moses up there. So it's kind of a daunting room psychologically, because you're standing there and you know all about.
I already know you're not supposed to go in there, dude.
Exactly.
I mean, what part of the script? You're a director, you're a filmmaker, you're a showrunner, you're a producer. You know what room you don't go into. You've read the script.
It makes good TV, Jimmy. It makes good TV.
Good Lord. Okay. So what happened?
I'm in there, and I'm investigating specifically this door that said to open and close. And I'm in there. It's cold. There's no heat in the building. I'm seeing my breath. And then all of a sudden I feel this. I mean, it feels like fingers, a hand grab my shoulder. And I mean, just there's a specific feeling, as you know, when you're touched by a human hand. And I mean, I'm 15 to 20 seconds after that pressure, it lifts and I start getting a burning sensation. Felt like a bee sting. And lo and behold, Mustafa and our cameraman David Dubian pull down my jacket, and there's scratch marks going down my neck to my back in that same area. And uh, it all was preceded by what felt like a human hand putting pressure on my shoulder area. And again, you always hear about people being scratched and how it's a negative thing or a demonic thing, whatever it may be. But that instance, there was nothing really scary about it at the time. I mean, it was such a real sensation and such a real situation that I thought it was my cameraman reaching out to like try and get my attention or something. And lo and behold, it wasn't a physical person or a physical touch that turned out to actually leave a mark in some way. So it was, something that was documented. So it wasn't just the personal, personal experience per se, but there was, a physical scratch left. And what that means, I'm not sure.
We did the Queen Mary together too, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So do you remember, I don't know if you were with us, because we had, if you remember, we had like 4 crews, right? Filming 3 crews, 3 investigations going on of the ship at the same time. But we were up in the bar on the top of the ship, whatever that was called. I can't. Was that the Winston Churchill bar or something like that? Churchill's. Right. Were you up there with us? And
no,
Jay?
I was down in the engine room at that time.
Okay, but see, and that was the okay. I wanted to be. I was listening to what was going on in the engine room. I was listening to Jay was with us up on the top floor, and you guys had stuff jumping off down there. And
oh yeah, it was wild.
That was wild. And but so I was. We were having. I'm not saying anyway. This is what happened. This is what made me non-jealous of the engine room. This is what happened to us there. Talking about the physical side. So we were rapping. And who was oh man, I'm brain farting. The investigator that was with us, the big dude with the tats. God,
I can't. Patrick Doyle.
Yeah, Patrick. Patrick's amazing, right? Just cool dude. So we're up there and we're kind of rapping, and I think we had like 3 cameras. Everything was still live. And so the boom, sound, and they were all to my right, facing me. And Patrick is sitting in front of me. Jay is sitting to my left. And Patrick and I were doing an SD session with Jay. Jay had the headphones on. And Patrick and I were doing the questionings or the questions for the camera. Okay, so anyway, Jay pulls off his headphones. The room is quiet, and I'm getting ready to go, how you doing? At that moment now, and this is the big lounge, and to my left is the back half of the lounge, Brandon, and it was dark back there, and we never went. I didn't even know what was back there, because we were filming up in front by the bar, right, where the piano was. And at that moment, we all hear a door slam. And I look into the darkness, and it was loud, right? I look into the darkness, and I could see a door in the back of the room. What's that? And we all heard it. So I get up and the cameras follow me. I don't know if you saw and ended up seeing this. The cameras follow me. I go back. It's a freaking bathroom. None of us knew what was there. And I go in, and it's a men and women's bathroom door. And so you go through that, and there's 2 doors, men and women, right? And I go up to the first door, and it's all spring loaded. And I push the door. You can't even open it. And you know how doors, when they come down, they slow down. They don't slam, right? They slow down and then close. That's what these doors did. There's no way to slam the door. You can't do it. You can throw it as hard as you want, but it's going to go right and close. And Patrick Doyle, he's out front with Jay. And I'm trying to slam these doors, and they're going, nope, that's not it. Then I went into the bathroom, and I'm open, and they go, that's it. That was the sound. It was an interior door on the inside of the bathroom that closed, slammed. And I got up with the cameraman and walked in live, right? It was live, right? We walked straight in. There's nobody in there. What is slam? And it was one of those things where you just walk away going, okay, there's something to this. There's something to this. We got to figure this out.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah. And
what a strange place, man. I mean, the Queen Mary, I mean, what a unique opportunity we had there too. No one on the ship.
We had the whole ship to ourselves.
I mean, I don't think that'll probably happen again. That was, I mean, what a unique situation. And talk about a place that's so infamously haunted, and in a spot you were in, that Sir Winston's area is notoriously known for being haunted, specifically those bathrooms. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I didn't. No. Now you're freaking me out even more. You're freaking me out. And you can feel that ship. I don't want to sound like I'm not exaggerating. In fact, you can't exaggerate it enough. Honestly, it's haunted. The ship is haunted. When you go into that ballroom and it looks like the frigging ballroom from The Shining, that's exactly what it looks like, man. It looks like Jack Nicholson at the hotel. That's exactly what it looks like. And you're going down those hallways, you can feel the presence of something all over that ship, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the history permeates from the walls. It's just unique place. And like we talked about earlier, like the elements of a haunting, that place has it all. I mean, it's the running water aspect. A lot of paranormal investigators talk about that. And that's kind of a spiritual belief that goes back millennia. And that place has everything going on. It's got the history, it's got the materials, it's got the ocean, and it's a special place.
And it looks so cool. I mean, you're going right back in time. It's got that vibe. It doesn't disappoint for sure. Now, okay, so when it goes from the non-physical to the physical, now again, I've been touched. God, I sound like we're at a counseling session. Okay, hold the doll, Jimmy. Where'd you get touched? But it's weird. I have chosen to ignore it instead of freak out, and jump up and I don't know, give it energy, right? Or something that you don't need to do. But that's how does something go from interdimensional to dimensional? Because we hear it goes back thousands of years. We hear about this all the time. This isn't something new, but how does it go from interdimensional to dimensional and physical?
That's one of the ultimate questions, right? I mean, we're trying to figure out how these things operate, what are the mechanics behind it. But I'll say, like, again, with the data that we've collected in some of these places where you're seeing physical manipulations of the environment around it, I mean, that plays a factor, right? So is something consciously manipulating the environment and knows how to do so, to the sense that it's making you feel these sensations, like the drastic pressure changes, for instance? And is that somehow so drastic you could feel it on parts of your body, like almost like a...
But is it... Yes. But is it the undead?
I don't know. To me, like I said earlier, I one day I believe, one day I don't. Is it some kind of human psychological element to it? Possibly. Is it the undead? Is it a consciousness that survived death that knows how to manipulate the environment around it? Maybe. But it's so tough. It's so tough to say, but there's definitely something happening, and there's millions upon millions of people that are witnessers and experiencees that have had these things happen. So there's something going on.
You say you lost your brothers. Have you made contact with them?
I haven't. No, no, and it's crazy because another show I've been show running recently is a show called Family Spirits, which is specifically about witnessers that are having interactions with their deceased loved ones. And it's been a hell of a project to work on. Just hearing these emotional stories from people that have lost, those so close to them that have been visited by them, and just to see that love transcends death in that way, and that people do experience their deceased loved ones is a really great case study, first and foremost, to work on, because there's so many correlations between these stories and these people that have never met each other, have never spoken to each other, but are having very similar experiences. But personally, I've never had that happen.
Have you tried?
No.
Yeah, see, that's neither have I. I'm just letting you know. It's almost like Pandora's box. It's sitting right in front of you. Do you open it or not? Right? And are you safer if you just keep the lid shut? And sometimes I'm okay with that. Sometimes it's let's not poke a stick in the eye of the bear.
Exactly. Not to say that there's times, I'm sure you can relate to this too, Jimmy, is that you have experience. You said your home has activity, right? So
it's haunted. It's it doesn't have activity. It's freaking haunted.
So
it is. I listen. This audience has listened to it got to the point, especially about 2.5 years ago. Every night on the show, I had something to say. It was like that. It was like something crazy was going on. Stuff moving, stuff being moved, stuff being broke. So I'm seeing things. And it's just it's haunted. It's friggin' haunted. And everything from stuff being moved, Brandon, to I've seen full-bodied frigging stuff. And okay. We've got 3 minutes to the break. Let me get this ready. I'm going to share this. I want your opinion on what happened. Okay. Here's my studio. This is my main studio, right? Out the door, down this hallway to another hallway, goes to the left, and it goes all the way back to the other end of the first floor. There's another part of the house that goes this way. But down this long hallway, when you're going down the hallway to the left, there's a bathroom. It's a full bathroom. But the door in the hallway is not flat to the wall. The wall angles like this, so you have to round the corner and then the door. So my point is, at the end of that hallway is a double door with a music studio in it, with drums and guitars and amps and lights and PA system and all that stuff. That's at the end of the hallway. But when you round the corner and go into the bathroom, because the door is angled, right? There's a mirror and you can see into the mirror, you're looking at yourself, but over your shoulder, you can look through the double doors into the music studio. Dig what I'm saying? And you couldn't do that if the door was flush, but the door is angled, right? Okay. So it's after the show. I wrap. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I got to go pee. I go down the hallway. I turn on the friggin' bathroom light, and over my shoulder, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, right? Okay. Over my shoulder, through the double doors, I see this black ghost. Just go right. And dude, and I looked right. I'm looking at my eyes And so I just watch it walk right behind me, and I scream. I fall. I screamed like I was 5 years old. I screamed. I fell backwards in the bathroom. I went against the door, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And I lose it, and I come out. Right across the hall is the hall light, and I reach for that, and I turn it on, and I go into the studio. Of course, there's nobody there, but I had to go and look. There's nothing in there. But I watched it, and I saw the whole thing, man. Shoulders, profile of the face, and it just like walked right behind me. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And dude, I live alone. So what's my choice? Can't call 911.
Exactly.
Do I freak out? Do I go full Jack Nicholson, right, and lose my mind? Or do I go, it's haunted? Okay.
You got a roommate,
Yeah. So what do I do? What do I do?
Well, I mean, if it's not something that's bothering you, I mean, it's just going to be every part of your everyday life now, and if it's not something that's trying to, terrorize or torment you, it's just, you got roommates now, buddy. So
when I after the show tonight, when I'm done, right, I'll go use that bathroom, but I turn on the hall lights. I do, man. I light that up. I light that whole thing up like a Christmas tree before I get down there. It's pretty. I haven't seen it since, though. Only saw it that one time. But I see here. This is the trippy part. I watched it. I didn't see it out of the corner of my eye. It wasn't on a camera. It wasn't. No, I watched this thing go right. Yeah. It was nuts. I got a good 3 seconds. Good.
That's impressive. Yeah. I mean, you hear about shadow people phenomena a lot, and sometimes it's just a quick blip like that. But to have something like that last as long as it did, that's a rare occurrence.
See now, okay, as a showrunner, and I promised everybody before the show, before I brought you on, we would talk about that. So when we come back, what is a showrunner? But as a director, producer, researcher, investigator, and showrunner, right? Do you get the Holy Grail often, or do you feel that you have yet to catch the Holy Grail?
I'd say we have yet to capture the Holy Grail. There's been things that we have captured that is stunning visually, audibly, but it's trying to get all of those pieces of the puzzle together at once, which, can we do that? Maybe it's not attainable, but maybe it is. But that's what keeps the search going, right? That's what keeps not only the show interesting, but it also keeps the research interesting, is trying to achieve that Holy Grail moment.
When my definition, like with UFOs, Holy Grail, daytime, 30 friends, in the sky, right, something great. That's the Holy Grail. Nighttime can be anything. Not saying it's not fun to see and experience. Holy Grail, daytime UFO. Holy Grail, daytime Bigfoot. Right? What's the Holy Grail paranormal supernatural shot that you would love to get?
I would love to capture a visual image on the EMCCD camera that is correlated by data environmentally that shows that this image you're seeing not only is physically present, manifested itself, but is also correlating on multiple other instrumentations. So,
well, what about the tuberculosis nurse?
See, that to me is interesting. It's an interesting image, but maybe it's an artifact. You know what I mean? Maybe it's an artifact. If there was other data to support it, if there was other instrumentation to support it, especially other cameras in different spectrums, that would make it the Holy Grail moment to me, is having verifiable data and verifiable correlating devices that can show this isn't an artifact from a camera. It's actually physically there, and we're able to show it in different spectrums. That to me would be the Holy Grail moment for sure.
Our guest tonight, Brandon Alvis, Haunted Discoveries. Let's take our break. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back. More with Brandon right after this. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I want to invite you to come to Alaska with me on the Contact at Sea cruise. It is this September 6th through the 13th, 2024. We are on the largest ship in the Pacific Ocean. That's right, the Ovation of the Seas. It's an amazing cruise, and a ship this big is so much fun. We've got lots of activities and lots of great speakers. We are leaving from Seattle to Sitka, Alaska, Skagway, Juneau. We're going to end the cruise in Victoria, BC, and arrive in Seattle on September 13th. We've got a lot of amazing speakers, including we've got Seth Showstack, Scott Walter, Stephen Bassett, Daniel Sheehan, Daryl Sims, Mas Adi, Vivian Chavez, Grant Cameron, Geraldine Orozco, Misha Johnston, and Melanie Aguirre, and a whole lot more. All you have to do is go to divinetravels.com. You can also go to contactatsea.com. Both are going to take you to a full event schedule. You can check in, look at the boat, get things ready to go, and maybe get a cabin with a balcony. That's what I'm talking about. Come see the whales. Come check it all out. Let's go to Alaska this September 6th through the 13th, 2024 with me, Jimmy Church. Now, when you head to divinetravels.com or contactatsea.com and get signed up, you know what? Use my name, Jimmy Church. I'll see you there September 6th through the 13th, 2024. Let's go to Alaska. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black T-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 T-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. Go Beckley Teppy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right, welcome back. My electronics here in the studio went wonky, and you guys are watching me walk around the studio. I just lit some sage. My mixer over here started. I don't know if you guys heard it, but it started humming. So I had to go over to this side of the studio and fix that. And it's because of Brandon, dude. What the heck? You saw me get up. I had to get up.
Shadow figure, you know,
man. It was. I'm serious, man. I don't know if you caught me watching me over here. I was lighting sage, man. I'm like sage in my studio, and I'm just like, what's going on? I had to walk around, and that's never happened.
That's wild.
Never happened.
Might be that story you're talking about. You know. Well, sometimes when you start talking about strange things like that, that's when the high strangeness kicks in. You know.
It's just I've taken it to the point where, okay, it's like this. I want to know your answer to this, your reaction. So upstairs, I have shoe racks. And this started the day that I moved into the house, right? Almost 4 years ago. And so I have a lot of Adidas. Okay. It's an obsession. I do. I do. And it's an embarrassing amount of shoes. So don't ask how much. And they started falling off the rack into the middle of the floor. And like, traveling, and they were overlapped, like crisscrossed on the floor every day, a couple times a day, different shoes, different parts, just in the middle of the floor. And so this is going on, and I'm really the first time I saw it, I thought that I forgot to put the shoes up, so I replaced them. Went back an hour later, and another pair is down on the floor, and that's when I kind of went, okay, all right. Okay. So anyway, this had been going on for a couple of months, and I'm upstairs in my bedroom, and to my left is the master bath, and then you walk into there, and then the walk-in closet where the shoes are. But it's a good distance away. It's 30 or 40 feet, right? Okay. I'm reading, and I've got like my iPad, and I'm in bed, right? Pillows, iPad, and I just hear pum pum. And I said out loud, I'm not getting up. I'm not coming in there. So do what you want to do. I'm just going to, I said this out loud. I'm talking to a friggin' ghost, man. I'm just going to stay here in bed. All right. Okay. So do what you want. I'm serious. This is exactly what I said out loud. And then I said to myself in my mind, dude, you're talking to a ghost, man. This is what this has come to. So I wake up in the morning, I go in, and of course, the shoes are on the floor, and I put the shoes back, and I said, okay, I'm gonna start. You pick out the shoes. I'll wear the shoes that you drop on the floor. And that went on. It still does. It still does. I wear the shoes that are laying on the floor in the morning when I wake up. And it's like that. Just to live with it, that's okay, right? There's no reason to go to extremes.
No, no, not at all. And especially if they're picking out your outfit for the day, can't go wrong with that. Sounds like a helpful ghost, Jimmy. Sounds like a good thing.
Female ghost. It's a female ghost laying out my clothes. Yeah. Now, if my shirt and pants are laid out for me, I think I bring. Now, do you like bringing in a medium into the investigation?
That's something we have done before. Actually, we did that on a return episode for season 2 of Haunted Discoveries, where in the first season we went into this very unassuming bed and breakfast in Glasgow, Kentucky, and a place that just had all these false legends about it. Everything from it was used in the Underground Railroad to all the Civil War history that the local historical society had been kind of tirelessly trying to dispel some of these historical myths about the place. And we show up and we're investigating this place, and all of a sudden we start getting what seems like interaction with what is a previous owner, the woman that actually restored the bed and breakfast and made it to what it is today. And we had all these crazy interactions, seem like direct responses with our equipment. So we came back a year later with a medium to try and see if that would help further the communication. And it was something that was actually fruitful for the investigation and to really understand what we were encountering. And with APRA and with our research, we're always open-minded to different types of investigation tactics. Be that psychic phenomena, be that going in and doing cold readings. And we brought in a woman named Mariah from San Francisco, and she came out, and we did not tell her anything about that place. And the episode hadn't aired yet, so no one has seen our previous investigation. And she came in and literally over a year later picked up where we left off with this kind of answer session through our devices. And she helped us understand what we were actually experiencing in that unassuming bed and breakfast that had all these false stories and false rumors about Civil War history that actually ended up being a former owner that didn't pass away too terribly long ago.
What does that tell you? Does it suggest that it's not one single thing like dead relatives or people that are stuck in the in-between? It could be aliens. It could be interdimensional beings that are living amongst us right now. We just can't see them. That it's a lot of different things. It's not one specific thing, but certainly spirits or past events are captured and frozen in the ether for mediums that have that talent. And some mediums are really, 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 really good. And they have that gift that they are connecting with that specific thing, which would be a ghost or a spirit.
I've had conversations with, people that work with MUFON or people that are Bigfoot researchers. There's, we talked about this before, Jimmy, where there's like these different factions within high strangeness and different factions within supernatural or paranormal studies. But there's one kind of overarching kind of belief that interdimensional phenomena is kind of a part of all this, right? And I very much believe that that could be a strong possibility, but who knows what a person with a gift like that is tapping into? Is it because we went in there previously and maybe our intentions of trying to communicate with a deceased person is kind of contaminated that environment. Like we almost thought form projected something like that. Is that what the medium's picking up on? Or is it someone that's, consciously like surviving death? Or is it a repeatable event that's happened over and over? I'm not sure, but there definitely is a common theme, it seems to be, with all researchers from any facet of this type of research, that interdimensional seems to be a piece of the puzzle. And maybe that is what mediums or sensitives or whatever you want to call it are picking up on. That's very possible.
What's a showrunner?
Showrunner is someone that deals directly with the network or financiers in show running a project, actually maintaining the day-to-day operations of the pre-production, the production, and delivery of a show to the satisfaction of the network and the financiers, to make sure that not only is it creatively meeting the expectations of the network, but is hopefully going to be a long-running series that can go for years to come. But it's everything from staffing, everything from creative decisions, everything from putting an entire production together from the ground up and making sure that it is delivered, it is airing, and it is meeting the expectations of the network.
Yeah, most of the public, you can. I'm the director of the show. People hear that, right? I'm the producer of the show. I'm the executive producer. They're not the bosses. The showrunner's the boss, and but it's something that's not celebrated. It's not like Good Morning America or Entertainment Tonight. So tonight we have Brandon Alvis, the showrunner for right, but yet it is the most important job in a TV production, and you're the shot caller, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a stressful situation a lot of the time,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a lot. It could be a lot of fun, and when you get to work with really great people and you surround yourself with talented, creative, and open people, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. But like you said, unsung heroes. I mean, there's so many amazing shows that people have watched throughout the years that they would just gloss over an executive producer or a showrunner in a credits, and they have no idea who that person is. And a lot of times it's funny because you can go and look at some of the most successful showrunners over the years, with especially in this genre, in the paranormal space, where you'll go to that person's IMDb and they don't even have a photo.
No,
So,
no, it's so weird. Showrunner, once in a while, you'll see a showrunner credit. Once in a while, it's weird. Casting was a credit that didn't have the credit that it should have had in the past, and now casting directors are they're right up there in front now, and we've seen those changes. But showrunners, people don't know. That's the most important job. The reason why you're watching the TV show, and you have no idea who that person is.
yeah, a lot of
And
times
that name, whoever the showrunner is, terrifies the entire staff.
exactly. Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
a lot of times you'll just see that person's name lumped in with a lot of with 5 or 6 other executive producers, and a lot of times those executive producers that are lumped into that one credit block don't even really have anything.
It had
to
nothing to do with
the
the show. Don't know anything about the show.
Yep.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. Show running is, and once, now that we've talked about it, I want the audience and those that see this show in the future too as well, just go and look up what a showrunner is. Go down that rabbit hole, and your respect and your appreciation of what a showrunner is and how important. But again, when I say shot caller, you're hired and fired, and decisions and direction and theme and everything else that rests on the showrunner's shoulders. And that's directing and cinematography and storyline. That's all on the showrunner. That's a stress. Maybe even the catering, right?
Hey, right, exactly. You never know what call you're gonna get or what situation you're gonna have to put yourself into for sure. And I've been working the TV business full time since 2009, and I worked my way up where I worked at local TV affiliates for Fox and CBS and ABC News. I was there as a commercial producer, then worked my way up to a promotions producer, and worked on various shows over the years. And I was lucky enough to work on Ghost Hunters with A&E and be a cast member on that show, and work with Mike Nichols, who is one of the best showrunners I've ever met, and a man that's just talk about a guy that knows what he's doing, and he's doing 4 or 5 shows at once.
Yep,
And this
yep.
guy's
Good dude too.
great guy.
Good dude. Great guy. This is a really easy segue, because I wanted to get into this subject with you, because it's what you do. It seems that, well, let's just go with Western society. The whole world runs this way, but everything is money driven. That's simple. And here in the United States, it's advertisers. That's it. Nothing runs without that. So when a show is successful, it's because the public is buying said product that is advertised on said show. That's it. That's it. That's the secret to network television right there. Right. And so when you see the proliferation that we have in the paranormal and supernatural, UFO, ghost hunting programming that is dominating television today, that says something, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it says that the viewership out there, the demographic, they want to feed their minds, right? They want to feed their minds with what many would say is unexplained phenomena or whatever it may be, but people want to learn. That's what it's all about. And then now you have primetime slots being filled with shows, especially the UFO stuff. I mean, the UAPs, ufology, all that stuff is really big right now, and there's some great shows out there that are airing right now. And like you said, it's ad is king, right? Cash is king, and all that money comes from ad revenue. And the only way you generate that ad revenue is putting butts in seats and eyeballs on the screen and filling those ad times and making sure people are being, pitched to for whatever product that may be. But again, I think that the audience and the demographic out there really love this genre. They really love the curiosity behind it, and they really love learning. And I think that it leads to, again, the conversations we had before, is just this higher level of consciousness and wanting to know what's really out there and what's really taking place.
You know what I love about it? And this is a fact. This is a fact. I'm going to say, it's not a theory. It's not an idea. This is a fact. Every single viewer of any of those shows, everyone had an instance with their grandmother at their grandparents' house when they hear something, and then your grandmother says from the kitchen, "That's our ghost." Right? You have so right. Everybody has had that happen. And so, sure, ghost hunting show, they've had this in their lives since they were a toddler. And it's just the way that the world is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's funny because like there's a term I've heard many times, and a term we use a lot in production with Angie Creative and the shows we're doing, is it's not just grandma's ghost stories. It's literally something we talk about. It's something I've heard so many times, and especially doing family spirits. Is you're 100% right. It always leads to the grandmother, and it's always about a ghost story from the grandma's house, or grandma saying, "Oh, that's just our ghost." You're spot on with that, on the money.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Every friend that I had growing up, and it's not like I'm talking about me. I'm just talking about the way it is with everybody. Your friend is going to tell you, yeah, we're going to my grandmother's house this weekend. it's haunted, but we got to go there for Christmas. It's Thanksgiving and and I'm thinking the same thing. I got to go to my grandparents' house. The place is haunted. It freaks me out. I don't like pulling in the driveway. I'm not planting a flag here, right? Grandma's ghost stories.
It's
And
true. It's true.
I love that. And so when you, I think that there are, I don't want to get controversial. I'm not into that. Okay. Just everybody do your own thing and love what you love and don't like or whatever, you can tune out. But there are different levels of, I'm going to use the word authentic ghost hunting. And there's other stuff that's out there in programming that I know that the audience is watching going, well, this is just entertainment. Right. And do you feel that too as well? Is there some stuff out there that kind of hurts your reputation?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's
Stay in the safe zone. I'm not here
yeah,
to ruffle feathers, but do you understand where I'm going?
yeah, no, I 100% do. Yeah, it's again, there's technically no right or wrong way to do any of this, right? And we don't know what this all is. We don't know exactly what's happening, but there are times where things are dramatized to a point that it clearly is a scripted situation. And I think that over the years, the demographic and the viewership of these type of shows have kind of grown a little tired of that, and they want a little more authenticity, and they want to be more part of the journey, not really told what's happening per se, but really being part of that exploration with the team and with the process of the show and things being discovered. And they want to be part of that discovery process. They want to be part of finding out that EVP really happened, or this piece of history that has been lost to time really is something that's manifesting itself in a building. So yeah, there really is. I think, especially now, as more of these shows have came out and the viewership has really kind of matured with it, that they really want an authenticity that I think that they've been craving for a while, and I think that people are more prone to watching these days. They want the authenticity for sure.
Is it better not to find out? Right. Look, we all know how Oak Island is going to end.
Right. Right.
Right. You don't want that secret revealed. You don't, right? We all know what the ending of every single Bigfoot show.
Mm-hmm.
We know the ending, right?
Yeah.
We don't. Do we want those answers? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there. It's obviously the mystery and continuing the hunt is part of the format, right? And part of what continues these series and continues the storytelling of it all. But it could be in a way where if there is answers being revealed and something is being found, you could further it too. You know what I mean? The story doesn't have to stop there. It's just, how do you creatively make it where the stakes are higher, right? And that's something that could be happening, something we haven't really seen yet, right? But I think that it could be interesting to see if there was something found and there is some kind of proof. Can you repeat it? Can you go further with it? So, I think it could be an interesting spin when it came to the format of these types of shows, for sure.
Yeah, people say to me all the time, if disclosure happens with UFOs, what are you going to do about your career? I said, man, I want that. Could you imagine the amount of focus and attention that the subject would suddenly gain? And it would be the same thing with not only all of the ghost hunting shows, but something like Skinwalker Ranch, or again, I bring up Oak Island. If that is real, then what else out there that we've been questioning about folklore, right? Or, mythological situations that actually may not be so mystical, that there may be actually something to this, and that would actually help move this forward instead of stopping everything.
Right. No, it would be a huge awakening moment for a lot of people. And it would make the process even more interesting in the fact that you would have people involved, characters that you've never seen coming into the fold and being part of it. And who knows what else would be uncovered. Just because something's been disclosed doesn't mean that, case and shut, it's over. That means now the work really starts, right? This is real. This is actually happening. Now let's find out as much about it as we can. So I think that it would be a tremendous thing for disclosure to happen. I think it would be something that would further the story in a tremendous way.
How do you approach an investigation? I've seen so all of us have seen different techniques and approaches to it. Some trying to anger the situation, some are more calm and trying to be soothing and friendly. There's different ways to approach this. How do you handle it?
Well, for us, historical research is key in what we do. We want to know as many historical facts about these purportedly haunted locations as possible, not only because, a lot of the stories are attributed to that, but we want to be armed with as much documentation as possible. And then once we're there, we're all about controlling the environment as much as possible. And what I mean is, obviously, we're not tenting an entire building and making it a lab or something like that, but we want the building to play out the way it does on a daily basis. We want to be there to simply observe and report. And so what we want to do is go in and light up a place with control devices. And we want to allow that environment and allow that building to play out the way it does. And at the end of that investigation, we're provided with information. Yes, there may be things that happen in the moment. Yes, there may be personal experiences. But at the end, the research and the data points is really what's going to tell the story. So for us, we want to go in and collect as much data as possible, observe that, report it, and try and catalog it. So that's what it means to us. And we want to make sure that if this phenomena is truly taking place and hauntings are a real thing, ghosts are a real thing, you should be able to capture it with a scientific instrument. And we want to be prepared and ready to capture those moments and report those moments.
What's your, do you, there's so many different ways to approach it. And I know that everything is different. I get that. Each investigation that you do is going to be different and done differently than others, but you also learn and try to achieve results. Do you go into a lockdown situation where you know that there's no possibility of a stranger or somebody else to come in and pollute your laboratory setting?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
And what about turning off the lights too as well? Do you do everything in darkness?
yeah, we want to again control the environment as much as possible, like you just said. No outside human contact that's outside of the production with doing the show specifically. That's one kind of cool thing about doing a show on this scale is the fact that we're able to have the opportunity to really control buildings and really lock it down in a sense of only allowing the production crew and the team in to investigate it. We don't shoot everything in infrared. We do use infrared cameras, but we shoot everything with just UV light, natural. So we want to go in and document that to the best of our ability from a docu-series standpoint, not necessarily a reality show, but really allowing the team and allowing the investigation to play out as it would with a camera crew or without a camera crew. But again, doing a show like this affords us the opportunity to go into a location and rent it out for multiple days, be there, control who's in, who's not in the building. And it's almost like kind of like getting a grant from a college to conduct research. You're given money to go produce a product for a network that is a TV show at the end of the day, but it does allow us to go into these places that normally we wouldn't be able to get access to and control that environment as much as possible and document that entire process.
When you get into the lockdown situation and you've dimmed the lights, naturally your senses are heightened. Your vision is now restrained, right? You don't have the ability. Everything is really quiet, so suddenly you're hearing stuff, or no, suddenly you're not hearing stuff. Right? It's the opposite, right? Everything is, and when stuff starts to come alive, and you can tell when you're starting to, and your senses are kicking off. Do you pee just a little bit? I mean, you know what I mean? Do you just like, because everything is heightened, right? Your awareness of your environment is elevated and your adrenaline is running. Do you have those moments?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the spidey senses definitely start to kick in, right? And
Mhm.
you get the vibe of a location, especially, I mean, you've investigated places, Jimmy. You know that you do it for a certain amount of time, you're kind of able to go into a place and tune in a little bit, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, I feel the vibes. I feel like there's something to this place. So yeah, I mean, when investigation time is going and you're in the moment and who knows what's going to happen, yeah, you definitely have a sense of an elevated uh, adrenaline rush or an elevated sensory thing going on. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's definitely exciting, and I think that plays into the investigation too. I think a lot of times, like we talked about the double slit experiment earlier, the observer affecting the environment. Sometimes with these places, it makes you wonder if the observer is projecting
Right,
into the
right,
environment. So
right, 100%. When you and I did the police precinct, right here in Los Angeles, um, and I know you remember this, but I just want to tell the audience about this. So they have me. I'm getting ready to go on camera. They have me. I'm sitting behind the booking desk. Okay. And I'm all alone. Everybody, the production crew and everything is somewhere else, including you. And I'm sitting up there for about 15 minutes in the dark, waiting. I think somebody was going to come on camera. I was going to do an interview with somebody off location. I think that's what it was, right? Anyway, so I'm sitting there alone, and I'm hearing. I'm gonna everybody. I'm gonna use a bad word. I'm hearing shit, and it's like pebbles, right? Like pebbles. Over to the left, to the right, in front of me. I can hear it. It's like little rocks being tossed. Going across the floor, and I'm like, man, and I'm like, no, 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 and I'm alone in the dark, and I'm getting this action, and I go to Jay. I go, Jay, are you hearing this? And do you remember there was a mannequin there that was dressed in a friggin' police uniform? And I'm in the dark and I'm hearing, so every time I look, I got that mannequin. And I was freaking out. Now, I wasn't imagining that. That was pebbles. And I was there was nobody with me on that floor at the entrance of the police station. I was alone and it was just constant, like pebbles. I probably heard 24 of these happen. That's not coincidence. And you
no,
don't hear that stuff normally.
no, and that's that exact area where the director Misha, that was that hot spot, that entire hall right there where her office was just around the corner, and that
I
was
remember that. Yeah.
you were in
Yeah.
the spot, and they had you staged in a place that was an active spot for sure.
Dude, I wanted to get that interview done and I wanted to get around people. That's all I wanted to do, man. I was like, man, this is really freaking me out. Now, so with that though, do you feel that some of don't name names, do not do that. But is some of the stuff staged? Do you feel as a showrunner when you're seeing something, you're going, no, no. Do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it happens. I think sometimes there's going to be a pressure to keep a show on air. and sometimes that pressure bleeds into uh, creative decisions. I'll put it that way. But yeah, there's some of that, and I think that over the years, I mean, there was a huge paranormal TV boom on travel for a good run. I mean, a good run. And some of that's kind of dwindled down over the years. Some of that has to do with mergers and things like that, and business decisions, streaming networks, blah blah blah, all the business side of it. But again, I think it goes back to the demo and the audience kind of wanting authenticity. And I think people over that kind of big paranormal boom that happened a few years back, that people started seeing the same thing repeated over and over, and shows kind of dressed up with different names but being the same format, and having the same results, kind of led to the downfall of some of those. But I think the audience is more keen to that now than ever, and I think that especially with all the ufology stuff, a lot of this stuff coming to the spotlight, right? I mean, it's really put people in a position where they want the truth, and I think that they are more keen to some of that now more than ever.
Oh, one last question, then I want to get back to the new series and when it's airing and where everybody can go and see it. But I think one of the craziest things about this is the disembodied voice, where the voice is audible, everybody hears it, but there isn't a mouth connected to it. That's crazy. And you've experienced it, but when that happens, what is causing it?
Yeah, audible voice phenomena is one of the most intriguing phenomena in the paranormal. And again, a lot of times people always thought EVP was kind of a manufactured back in the day, when magnetic tape and the whole mechanism and the tape and all that was kind of creating these artifacts and creating voices. But when you hear something audibly in a place, an empty space, like you did, in the paranormal, excuse me, the police museum in LA, where you're in these kind of concrete box areas that there's no contamination, and you hear what sounds like human speech projecting out of nowhere. Where that's coming from, how that's happening, I'm not sure. What are the mechanics behind it? I have no idea how that's being projected. I won't even pretend to know how that's happening, but it's happening. And it's been not only encountered by many people, it's been documented by many people. And that's why it's so important to always go into a place and make sure you're having as many control devices as possible. And when you have that experience, that you're documenting it and prepared for it.
Do you have a favorite experience you want to share with us?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Just any experience I've had going to Perryville, Kentucky, and in this magnificent Civil War site, a place that doesn't get the recognition it deserves among other Civil War battlefields. A place that was one of the single bloodiest battles of the Civil War, single day battles. It's a piece of land that you walk on that just has a magical sense to it.
But you've heard disembodied voices there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like what? Like what?
I mean, specifically in the Carrick Parks house there, not far from the battlefield. I mean, you're physically hearing what sounds like conversation of people in an empty home that has no power whatsoever. So, I mean, you're there, you're hearing what sounds like audible conversation. So, how that's happening, we're not sure.
That's only the only time it's happened with me was with you on the Queen Mary, when I was with Tony Rathman and Cherie and Susan in the Churchill suite. That I went out in the parking lot when we wrapped. If we shot, all day. Anyway, I was walking to my car. I'm alone. And, we were all alone. We had that whole thing to ourselves, right? But anyway, I'm walking. And you know what I do? I do this. I heard a voice. I was so happy. I could not believe I heard what I heard. We all did. I mean, we all heard it, and I thought it came from above me. And this is my right arm, everybody. I'm pointing above to my right and up. That's where I heard it come from, like in this area. Tony, he turned around when we all reacted when we heard it, and he looked in the other, like he looked he went this way. He looked behind him. He was sitting facing me. And so he spun around and looked in the opposite direction. I looked at the boom guy, the sound guy. He's got the microphone. He's right next to me. And I go, "Is that you?" And he goes, "No." And I heard his voice. "No, it wasn't." Wow, that was. And I just thought, what causes that? Because now that's sound pressure, right?
Exactly.
That's an audio wave
Mm-hmm.
for your ear to pick it up. Molecules, right? That's sound pressure. That's a sound wave. Something causes that to move. Something's moving the air.
Yeah, exactly. And that, again, not to sound like a broken record, but that's why it's always so crucial within the research to try and document all environmental conditions. So if you have the right instrumentation and you're in that situation and you have that happen and you have data points, maybe one day we can figure it out. And that's the key, and that's the process, and that's what continues the research.
Okay, so now season 3. Okay, so season 1 and 2 are out and have aired. Season 3 airs when?
So season 2, season 2 is currently airing right now on HauntTV. So season 1 and 2 aired initially on broadcast television on T&E, but now it's airing here in the US. It's also available in New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, and UK. And season 2 is airing now, and episode 5 is going to be airing this Saturday. I believe it's 7 p.m. And then we'll be having a release of season 3 here in. I don't have the exact date yet, but it will be coming here in the next month and a half. So
and then that's to get your showrunner. Season 1, always tough. Season 2, tougher. Season 3, getting to season 3 is amazing. You've got season 4 in the can. You got to feel pretty good about that, and it's just nothing but positive behind the show. But that's got to make you feel pretty good as producer, director, right? Showrunner and lead researcher.
Yeah, it does. It's a great feeling, but like you said, each season gets more difficult, and the stakes get higher. And trying to outperform the last season, and not by outperforming by, oh, it's got to be better, but just finding bigger places, better stories, and more instrumentation just to further the research. It's tough, but man, this last season that we just shot with 4 was one of the wildest experiences I've ever had in all my years of doing this. And just being in Eastern Kentucky in the Appalachian Mountains and experiencing things that I never thought I would experience, some of which has just changed my entire belief system when it comes to the paranormal. And like we talked about earlier, that kind of crossover of interdimensional. Is it Bigfoot? Is it ufology? Is it UAPs? Is it paranormal? Whatever. I am now at a point where I am more of a believer than ever, and I've experienced some things in Eastern Kentucky and in Appalachia that I am still scratching my head over. So I'm excited for that one to get out.
It's with some of the indigenous cultures here in North America. We can talk about Central and South America too as well, but in North America that have talked about this phenomenon for generations. The ant people, the underground, the star people, the Star Nation, orbs, spirits, and what's going on with you right now. It seems that the cultures here in North America have been very aware of what is going on that we are just now trying to understand.
Absolutely. No, I mean, like you said, I mean, there's cave drawings going back many, 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 many years here in North America that are showing what people are experiencing today in some of these parts of the country. So there's definitely an ancient knowledge of these things. And, my hope is that with modern technology and the rapid advancement of technology, that hopefully one day we can have an understanding of what our ancestors experienced before us.
Well, one last question before I let you go. By the way, Brandon, perfect show. Just absolutely amazing show. Not too far from you is the Brown Mountain Lights. And that's exactly what we're talking about right here, right now. That's a phenomenon that goes back a long ways. This isn't anything modern. But it's an interesting geographic location about the Kentucky part of this and the Tennessee part of this. It may be part of the supernatural stuff that's going on. Do you think that there's a connection with the Brown Mountain Lights and where you are?
Oh, absolutely. I again, this coined Kentucky anomaly that goes into Tennessee as well. There's something to the fact that there's this magnetic and gravitational anomaly taking place in this area of the country, and all of this high strangeness. There's definitely a connection. There's definitely a correlation, and I hope that as researchers look into it and take into account that there's a special environment here, hopefully we can get more answers. But there's definitely something to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was never an orb guy. I'm not. Okay, I don't want to even suggest that. But I saw one. And when I was with a group of people and I watched it grow. It was about probably 100 yards from me across this field. And it was flat, by the way. It was flat. This is a guitar pick, right? But I could see it was like a quarter. I could see that it was two-dimensional. But that's another thing. But I watched it grow and it was gray. And it's out there in this field in the dark at night. And I'm watching and I thought, Brandon, I rub my eyes like this. And I look again and it's still there. This lady standing behind me with her family, her husband and a couple of kids. And there's like 50 people to my left. He goes, "Is anybody looking at that gray orb out there?" And I turned to her and I go, "This is real? What?" Right? I was like, oh my God. And I could hear in the darkness everybody off to my left talking about it. And I don't know. I don't know. And, we hear people talk about orbs all the time. I'm not ready to dismiss all of this conversation. And I share a story like that. And I sound as crazy as anybody that's ever been on my show.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's, I'm right there with you about orb phenomena, especially when it comes to documenting it. There's so many natural explanations, from dust to moisture there's so many different natural explanations, but there is something to some of this luminous phenomena that's out there, like physically seeing light that should not be there in that environment taking place. There's something to it, and it's a common phenomenon that's taking place all around the world. It goes back millennia as well. It's been talked about, and especially cemetery light phenomena. That's been talked about forever. So there's got to be something to it.
Yeah. You know what I don't do, and I'll say good night now, but that's the one thing that I'm pretty sure about. No cemeteries for me at night. No, not. It's no reason. There's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. It's just, there's the room, the Moses room, right? You just know you're not supposed to go in there. And so cemeteries at night, I'll let somebody else do that. Brandon, much success to you, my friend. I look forward to our next conversation. When the show premieres, let's get you back on and we'll talk about that first episode.
Sounds great, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to see you.
It's great to see you, my friend. Thank you so much, Brandon. Talk soon. Brandon Alvis. Brandon's links are below. Season 2 is airing now. Season 3 is going to air in sometime in August, maybe the first week of September. Season 4 is already shot, and that is Haunted Discoveries. With that, I want to remind everybody that no show tomorrow night. I am on location tomorrow. I'll be back Thursday night with Daryl Sims, and then Friday night we're going to do a special Fade to Black AMA AJA with everybody on Friday night. Until then, go Backley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.